Hey guys, CBHolo1 here. Welcome back to another video, and today we are back with my PRR M1a with a short little update. So let's get into it. So for starters, let's just say I would like to apologize for my hands being shaky. I decided I was just going to leave this thing on my dresser, which is where it typically stays when I'm not running it, and so I have to do all this freehand, and my hands are not the steadiest. So yeah. Sorry about that. Anyway, so let's start at the front. There are two changes, mainly. The first is, let's start with the top, the headlight. The headlight is 3D printed, and it looks like crap because it's hand-painted, and I did a really bad job. But, it is 3D printed, and eventually I will be probably repainting it to make it look better. Or I will end up getting a gray filament, which would make it 1,000 times easier. Moving down, we have this air tank, and yes, it is kind of covered in dust, because my room is very, very dusty. We have this air tank that was really difficult to put on. You can tell by just the way that those pieces that are holding it in are angled that it's not really meant to fit that way, but I made it work. So it's going to stay that way, actually. I don't think that piece is actually connected to anything. It might be. I can't remember. I built it a very long time ago. So, but other than that, that's pretty much it for the front. Alright, so it turns out that that piece is actually connected to something. And also I fixed the problem with the boiler front spinning simply by pulling out that piece that connects it to the boiler front. So basically it doesn't clip in properly, so it doesn't spin, which I am totally fine with it popping out a little bit if it's not going to go catty corner every time I try and run this train. I had a comment on the other video of how I made this. This is, as I'm sure you can see now that the camera has focused, it's 3D printed. You can tell because of all the lines. I will probably be 3D printing it with my own personal 3D printer to try and get rid of those lines. But it's hand-painted red. Originally, it was the same color as the drive rods. But obviously that wouldn't really be fitting because it's supposed to be red. But it is a custom Lego piece. And yeah, it was printed with the same set as the drive rods, which is why it was the same color. But this one, unlike the drive rods, actually worked the first try, which was very helpful. Alright, so let's get away from the front. Running down the side of the engine now is this wire that's supposed to be representing of a handrail, and they were a pain to make. In fact, to make them stick up against the side of the boiler, I had to pin them under the wires for the sand dome. So it works, and I'm perfectly fine with it. It's not, like, perfect, but I don't care. It's there, and it's better than it was before. But yeah, I like this wire. Also, inside the firebox, there have been a bit of structural changes that you can't really see. Basically, to make the boiler hold to the firebox a bit better, and to the cab a bit better, so it doesn't, like, fall apart constantly. Alright, so for something a little less noticeable, I redid the sidewalks, go along the side of the engine, and I was able to add a little bit more detail. So I added this thing, which I'm not sure what it does on the real engine, but it's on the real engine, so it's on mine. And I made these a little bit more structurally stable, so they don't have as much of a chance of breaking, which is helpful for when I pick it up. But as you can see here, it's not, like, perfectly spaced because these are on clips. So this has a fit every time it runs because it tries to pull this thing off, which it does do occasionally. And then this is still a little flimsy. I'm still working on trying to get that more structurally sound. And then it's the same story on the other side. I made it a little bit more strong so it holds together a bit better so I can pick it up easily. Alright, so there are two main changes to the cab. The main one you can see here is that it is now numbered. You can now see that it is numbered 6759, which is the numbering of the Lionel PRR M1a that my dad has that I used basically as a reference for building this entire thing. So that was, again, done by one of my engineering teachers at school. I gave him a reference picture, and he did what he did with the wonderful Pennsylvania lettering. Worked his magic and made these beautiful numbers. So I can't thank him enough for it. They look fantastic. The other change is on the inside of the cab, and you can kind of see it there. I put some red gauges in, or I guess it would be valves on the real thing. So it looks a little bit better. I mean, you're never going to see it, but it's there. Also, I shortened the drawbar, so it's a little bit more prototypical, because I now have already 8 turns for this thing to run on, so it no longer can complain that the turns are too sharp, because the turns are really freaking wide. So you can also kind of see, if my camera would cooperate, there's a little, there you go, there's a piece of underside detailing, that's on the real thing. It's a bit of a pain, because you can kind of see it there. It doesn't actually work when you run it. Unless you run it so that the engine is constantly going to the right, it will snap off the second the rear truck tries to turn, as far as I know. I'm not entirely sure if I've actually tested it. When I did it before, it broke off. But, so whenever I run it and it has to turn left, I have to take it off. I will probably be fixing that. Also, I just realized I made the seats green in the cab. But, yeah, so hopefully that actually stays on, because it's a really nice piece of detailing that I really like, and I really don't want to have to take it off every time I run the strain. Alright, so I took the engine off, and I tilted the track a little bit so it's facing a little bit more towards the light. But here's another change. You can see on the inside of the tender, the back head's a little different. Maybe. Depending on, I don't know, what some of your computer settings are. I know I'm having difficulty seeing it. My camera's also throwing a fit. So, yeah, you can see that that's a little different. I wanted to make it so it was a little bit more realistic, but I was struggling. So, eventually I will be getting around to doing that. I just wanted something that works. This also makes it a lot easier to change the channel inside the tender, because there's now there's a lot more room back there for me to actually change it. So that really, really helps. So the final change is this piece here, this singular 1x2 brick. That is now holding on these front bits of detail that were previously not secured in any way, so they would just like fall off. So that one piece has made it a lot better, because these are now flush up against the main body of the tender. And ignore the electrical tape. When I got some 1x16 bricks, they turned out to be the Technic bricks, which was not what I ordered, but I got them. So I had to fix it, so I took a piece of electrical tape and I cut it so it was the height of one of the bricks, and I put it over top so it would cover up all the holes. Obviously it's not foolproof. I do have a 3D printer that I can use to 3D print my own pieces if I so choose, but for right now that's how that's going to work. If I really wanted to, I could probably 3D print this entire side of the tender, but that's not Lego then, is it? But yeah, so that one piece has made it infinitely better. And again, I really like my wires, so you will find them everywhere on this train. And by the way, when I say this one piece, there's another one exactly like it on the other side. They are both symmetrical. So technically it's 2 pieces. So yeah. So also I found a way to like properly secure the sand dome. So I can take this, my sand dome, and if I can actually like do this first try, which the odds of that happening are like not very high, but that will now sit better in this slot. Okay. There we go. Still snagged on something, but you know, that works. There we go. So yeah, that now fits better and it's more secure. And eventually we'll be fixing the bell to make it smaller, because right now it's oversized. That'll happen later at some point. Alright, so I believe this is the last little bit of detail. I added these little pipes to, oh, my camera does not like me today, to the bottom of the cylinder, so it represents the cylinder chocks, is what I believe they're called. Basically, if I remember correctly, they allow excess steam to vent from the cylinders after a steam locomotive has sat idle for a while. And then when it starts moving, they open them up and it allows steam to vent from underneath, which is how we get the iconic image of steam shooting out of the cylinders when a steam locomotive starts moving. So they're on both sides. And the reason I can put them on is because I have the bigger turn, so the front truck no longer collides with them when it runs across turns. Except if I want to go on R40 turns, it doesn't work, and then this thing won't even bother with switches. So that's why I built another smaller engine that I featured in a previous video. I forgot how much detail I added to this thing. I also changed this up a little bit, so it's now narrower in the front, and then it comes up to this, and it gets slightly wider, as it does on the actual model, and the actual engine as well. So, and I think I shortened up the safety valves. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I've modified this thing so many times and so long ago that like I forget what I did to it. And I also think I redid the structure on the inside of the boiler too. Because I originally built it in a way that was completely pointless because I thought I was going to need to secure it a certain way, and then I didn't. So there was a lot of extra parts in it. But yeah, I got a lot of extra parts out of it because it didn't actually need them. So yeah, this short little update video actually turned out to be a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, so that is, I believe, probably missing something, all the modifications I've made to it since the last update video that I did. There are going to be more updates. Like eventually I want to add something that looks like a scale coupler to the front. I want to get like an actual dark stone gray piece for that. I want to redo the headlight. I want to redo the bell. I need to fix the spacing between some of these parts on the top so that they actually like align with where they were on the actual model. And I want to add more detailing here, make that a little bit more realistic by taking off that hole but still making it structurally sound. Eventually redoing the ash pan. And the big thing I want to do that will not happen for years is I want to put lights in this. In fact, when I designed the headlight, I designed it with a hole in the back that my camera is not going to want to show you. I made it so that in the future, when I actually get lights... Wow, my camera really does not want to play ball. There you go, you can kind of see it. There's a hole in the back. So that when I get lights, I can feed it into the headlight. I also have holes in the back of the marker lights. These ones are going to need to be... I just need to take off that back stud, and they will be able to have lights. So I want lights in the 4 marker lights, the headlight, in the cab, and under the ash pan. And maybe in these rear marker lights on the tender, once I find a better way of making them so that they can light up. I'm thinking about using micro LEDs, but I also want to know like how to make my own circuitry so I don't have to spend a massive amount of money, and I am taking digital electronics next year, which I think covers that. Keyword think. If it doesn't, then, you know, oh well. But, so that is the big updates. That's, again, I guess, because this thing keeps getting changed. So, yeah, anyway, I will see you in my next video. And I am CW Hollow 1, and have a good day, or maybe good night in your case. See ya.